You know, we are impressed with size. It's something small and quiet. We have the idea that it's unimportant, but if it's big, you know, and maybe noisy, then it must be important. But we know God doesn't measure life the way we do. The big things don't always impress Him. In fact, some of the little things in the Bible teach the biggest lessons. Small beginnings are the launching pad to great endings. And you know, that's a truth that can be hard for us to accept in today's culture because we're fascinated with the idea of instant results. Our motto is bigger, faster. How about smaller and faithful? You know, we don't have to look too hard to see that bigger, faster motto in action today. You know, athletes are bulking up on steroids rather than trusting their training. In our quest for bigger, faster, we've forgotten about the importance and the value of small beginnings. In fact, the Bible talks a lot about small beginnings. And yes, God is a big God, and He can certainly do things quickly when He wants to. But, you know, He usually does things through small steps. Job 8:7 says this, though your beginning was insignificant, yet your ending will increase greatly. And the verse that Larry read for us about Jesus there in Matthew 17:20 about the mustard seed. Now I want you to turn for a minute to the book of Zechariah chapter 4. Zechariah chapter 4. Now, let me tell us the context here. The budget was low, the morale was even lower, and it looked like the job of completing the temple would never happen. The people were discouraged because the project just seemed so small. And here in Zechariah 4:9-10, notice what it says. The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands will finish it. Then you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. And notice this first phrase here in verse 10. For who has despised the day of small things? I mean, Zerubbabel was assured by God that he would complete the rebuilding of the temple, and you know, the people would rejoice. But in verse 10, some of the Jews, the project seemed to be just, a small thing in comparison to Solomon's temple. And so, you know, I mean, you think about this in our world today. You know, you can go to Lubbock, to the church buildings today, and most of them are probably busting at the seams. And then you look here. But can God still do great things in small things? Is that a yes? Yeah. You know, Bible history is a record of God using small things. He used a shepherd boy with a slingshot to defeat a giant. He used a little boy's lunch, right, to feed a multitude. He delivered Paul from death through a little basket and a rope. I mean, we could go on. Never despise the day of small things. We may be small, but can God still use us? Yes, He can. You know, some of the deepest, richest things God does in our lives, you think back in your life, and they're done on a small scale. You know, the things God is doing right now in our lives, they have a twofold purpose. Number one, they're providing for us today, but they're preparing also us for tomorrow. Small things that God uses. I mean, David's encounter with think about this, David's encounter with the lion and the bear prepared him for his battle against Goliath. I mean, Joseph learned how to lead in an Egyptian prison by taking lessons he would later use to be second in command only to Pharaoh. I mean, the lesson here is this: don't be in such a hurry. If we go too fast, at times maybe we'll miss the important lessons that come through, just small things that happen every day. We have that phrase, stop and smell what? The roses. And maybe as Christians it needs to be stop and see what God is teaching and telling us in the little day-to-day circumstances of life. Matthew 25:21. You're faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of what? Many things. See, faithfulness in small things, and the result is God says He'll give us greater responsibility. If it were not for the one talent man in our world, there's a lot of things that wouldn't be accomplished. We're interested in the 10 talent guy, right? But what about the one talent one? Small things pile up. Kind of like that trash there, right? But instead of allowing Satan to discourage us because maybe we feel like we're too small or we're too insignificant, just take and try to reach one goal a day. Just some practical, we're probably not going to read the New Testament in a week, but we can decide to read and study a chapter or two and learn the lessons that are there for us. We may not be able to undo a bad habit that we have in a week, but we can stop one maybe this month. The list can go on. When we look at each of these decisions that we make on an individual basis, again, they may seem small and insignificant, but if God is honoring those things, those small things pile up. In Mark chapter 6, the crowd that Jesus was ministering to, they're hungry, right? And the disciples, they have a plan. Just send them away. But Jesus had a better plan. And by the way, we know this, Jesus' plan is always better than our plan. And in chapter 6, verse 38, Jesus said, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. Some versions say, go and look. Jesus wanted the disciples to take action, to do something. But, they come back and they say, you know what? Only 5 loaves and 2 fishes. We're in trouble. And Jesus makes the comment that they're going to feed this entire bunch with a little. A little. Now notice, I want us to focus on one word and one phrase, only and not enough here. Because with God, there's no such thing as only or not enough. He was only a little boy. So we're thinking that's something small, he can't make a difference. Not enough to feed the people. But Jesus took their not enough and turned it into more than enough. And he can do the same with us. You know, it's so easy for us to think, oh, I don't have enough talent, or the only thing I know how to do is, you know. We think what I do for the Lord, don't we feel this way sometimes, is only and maybe not enough? But let's remember this, small is big in the hands of God. God can take our only and turn it into plenty. There's nothing too small to give to God. You know, often at the close of Paul's letters, he named various people who were made part of his life and ministry. And you know, many of these people we know nothing about. I mean, you can turn and look at some of these this week, but in Romans 16, he greets 26 people by name. One guy named Urbanus and another one named Rufus. Y'all know anything about them? No. In 1 Corinthians 16, you know, there's Stephanus and his household. Ephesians 6, there's a guy named Tychicus. I may not be pronouncing that right. In Colossians 4, there's these guys named Demas. I can't even pronounce the names. In 2 Timothy 4, 10 through 22, there's this long list of names that Paul mentions. Guys that he says were faithful laborers, those guys who gave hospitality to him. Unknown to us. Now here's what I want us to get out of this. Unknown to us, but they were known by the Lord. These people that are listed, I mean, we'd call them they played second fiddle, right? They were all in the background, small roles, but here's the thing, faithful roles. Not big names in the Bible, but faithful ones. And you know, we live in a town of 900 and I can't remember what the sign says, is it 62? Something like that. Easily forgotten by this world, right? I mean, you know, Lubbock never even mentions us in the weather. It's always Littlefield and Muleshoe, right? Small, insignificant, forgotten by the world, but never forget, we're significant to God. No work is small if it's God's work. No gift is small if it's given in faith and love. No act of service is small if it's done to the glory of God. No word of encouragement is small. No text, no email is insignificant. Small things are big things in the hands of God. And let me say this. You're making a bigger impact than you think. You know, maybe it's just a little bit that we have. Time, energy, understanding, obedience, all those things can be big in the hands of God. You know, a lot of people out there in the world who want to do the big things for the Lord, but how many of us are willing to do just the small things? Stay faithful, refuse to give up, and you know, the most important step might just be that first step. It's just the idea of just starting. And let me read this, and I can't remember where I got it from, and then Drew, you can come lead us in a song. Start where we are. Start with fear. Start with pain. Start with doubt. Start with handshaking. Start with voice trembling. But start. Start and don't stop. Start where we are. for the Lord with what we have. Just start. Drew, come lead us in an invitation song.